Hello everyone, I am so excited to finally get into the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, or the AI RMF as we call it in the industry. Now formally, this is a voluntary guidance document developed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology to help organizations better manage the risks associated with AI while promoting trustworthiness and innovation. In simple words, this is the instruction manual for building safe tech. Think of it like a cookbook for a 5-star restaurant. It doesn't force you to cook a certain way, but if you want your customers to trust that the food is safe and delicious, you're going to want to follow these expert recipes. I've seen companies try to wing it, but NIST provides that structured North Star that turns chaotic tech projects into professional, governed systems. So now that we have mastered the fact that NIST is our big, helpful guidebook for managing risk, you might be wondering what risk actually means when we are talking about a machine. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is understanding AI risks. Let's talk about what we are actually afraid of. In the NIST world, AI risk is defined as the measure of the extent to which an entity is threatened by a potential circumstance or event, typically a function of the adverse impacts that would arise if the circumstance occurs and the likelihood of that occurrence. To keep it simple, risk is the chance of something bad happening times how much it's going to hurt. You've probably seen this at the office when someone asks, what's the worst that could happen? With AI, that could be a chatbot giving bad legal advice or a facial recognition tool making a mistake. As a former risk officer, I always tell people, you can't fix a problem if you haven't named it yet. NIST helps us name those problems so we can deal with them. Now that we understand that risk is a mix of how likely and how bad, you might be curious about what a perfect AI system actually looks like to the experts at NIST. And that leads us perfectly into the characteristics of trustworthy AI. Stay with me here because this is the heart of the exam. NIST says that for an AI to be trustworthy, it must possess several key characteristics, including being valid and reliable, safe, secure and resilient, accountable and transparent, explainable and interpretable, privacy enhanced, and fair with harmful bias managed. In simple words, this is the 7-point inspection for your AI. Imagine you're buying a used car. You want to know if the brakes work, safety, if the odometer is honest, transparency, and if it's going to start in the winter, reliability. If any one of those things is missing, you don't trust the car. It's exactly the same with AI. We need all 7 pieces of the puzzle to say a system is ready for the world. Since we now know what a trustworthy system looks like, you might be wondering how we actually organize our work to achieve those 7 goals well. That brings us right into our next step, which is the core of the framework. This is where the RMF gets practical. The core of the NIST framework is defined as the 4 high-level functions: govern, map, measure, and manage, that provide a structure for organizations to communicate and address AI risks. To put it simply, think it through, find the problems, check the numbers, and fix the issues. I like to think of it like a health journey. First, you commit to a diet, govern. Then you figure out where the hidden calories are in your pantry, map. You step on the scale to see where you are, measure. Finally, you actually hit the gym and change your habits, manage. You need all 4 to see results. Now that we've mastered the idea that these 4 functions are our game plan, you might be asking which one is the most important to start with. And that leads us straight to the center of the wheel, the govern function. The govern function is unique because it's the only one that stays on all the time. It is defined as the cultivation of a risk management culture through the establishment of structures, policies, and processes that provide a foundation for the other 3 functions. In simple words, governance is the boss of the process. This is about the vibe of the company. If the CEO is constantly shouting, move fast and break things, you probably have a weak governance function. I have been in rooms where the governance policy was just a dusty PDF on a server that nobody read. That's not governance. It has to be a living, breathing part of how the team works every day. Since we now know that governance provides the rule book for the whole company, you're probably wondering how we start applying that rule book to a specific AI project? Well, that brings us to our final step, which is the map function. We've reached the detection phase of our journey. The map function is defined as the process of establishing the context of an AI system, identifying its intended use, and recognizing the potential risks and benefits associated with its deployment. In simple words, this is the look before you leap phase. Before you write a single line of code, you have to ask, who is going to use this? Where could it go wrong? What data are we putting into it? It's like checking the weather and the map before you go on a hike. You don't want to find out there's a cliff in your path after you've already started walking. Mapping helps us catch the gotchas early so they don't become disasters later. Now that we've walked through the basics of the NIST RMF, from identifying risk and trust to the core map process, you've mastered the foundation of the world's most famous AI framework.